Good morning, and welcome to another unedited book discussion. My Brother the King has been out for about 2 weeks now. It's going so fast, and I am hearing from people more and more every day who are engaging with the book, writing reviews, having me sign them, showing me that they purchased the book in different formats. And that has really helped me. All the engagement has just helped me to get over the hump of launch day and launch week. It was very anticlimactic after launch week because there was such high energy for a while that it felt very anticlimactic, and I had to get back to stabilizing in the reality that this isn't the end, it's just the beginning, and launching the book is not a finish line as in everything stops. It's just the beginning. And so I'm so grateful for the level of engagement with the book so far. I'm delighted with the response that I'm getting. Everyone seems to love it and understand it and everything, but the more I'm talking to people about it, the more I'm realizing just how much I want people to know about the whole process, because that's really where you can see where God showed up and was instrumental in bringing this about, sort of behind the scenes things, which are really so special. And one of those is the title of the book and the series. And I've received a couple of questions about the title, My Brother the King. Where did that come from? Who's the brother? Who's the king? Whose perspective is that? And I really want to share that story with you, because this is really a God story. It really happened so organically. It was one of those things that was just gifted to me in the process. So it started a couple of years ago with an idea for a Bible study about the life of Jonathan and his friendship with David and what that can teach us about his life, what bound them together. And I called that My Brother the King, and I was in kind of a writing rut, and sort of in a moment of desperation, I just wrote what is now the prologue of the novel. But I didn't know at the time. I thought it was just going to be the Bible study, and I worked on that for a couple of years. So that's where the title initially came from. Once I had a publisher, the editors with Paper Raven worked with me on splitting the books into 3, because it was just one book that was too long. And I already had an idea for the 3rd book, so we just needed to split the first one into 1 and 2. And that's where the titles came out. And I love symmetry and synchronicity, and it really worked out well because all of the books have multiple perspectives included in them, but each book is sort of representative of one main character. The first book, My Brother the King, is mostly Jonathan's story. It's the origin story of his friendship with David. He is a prince of Israel who has experienced the presence of God, and he is valiant in battle on his own, but David is now the anointed king, and it's the story of Jonathan deciding to work with God and honor God by honoring David. And so My Brother the King is Jonathan's estimation of David. He is the king, anointed king, but he's my brother, not my enemy. And so it's really that story is in book 1. Book 2 is primarily David's story. My Rival the King is from David's perspective, thinking of Saul. King Saul was Jonathan's father, and he took the opposite view. He attacked David and decided to fight God on David's anointing. And My Rival the King is basically, David and Jonathan grappling with that and figuring out, how do we continue to keep our promises and honor God and keep our integrity when there's an outside force that is seeking to destroy us and make our lives miserable? How do we remain steadfast in the Lord when all of this craziness is coming against us? And, the ultimate act of surrender. And then My Father the King, book 3, is from the perspective of Jonathan's son, Mephi. In the Bible, his name is Mephibosheth. It's a very long name. It's a very meaningful name, but I nicknamed him to everyone's relief. So Mephi, My Father the King, is his estimation of David. And I don't want to give any spoilers because that's a ways down the road. But it is his perspective of David, who is the king at that point. And I didn't even plan for the titles and the perspectives to work out that way, but it did. And that was just one of the little special treasures that God gave me along the way, and just made the process that much more exciting. And it just, I guess the lesson that I've learned and want to share in that is that when you're working on something, not everything has to be stressed and strained and I have to come up with this, I have to figure out the perfect thing. When you're doing something with the Lord and you're working on it, He will provide what you need, and there will be answers to questions you didn't even know to ask. So in light of that, I hope there's more clarity about where the titles are coming from. So head on over to Amazon.com or Target.com or BarnesandNoble.com and pick up a copy of My Brother the King, and watch for My Rival the King, which is coming out on November 9th, I believe. And if you're not on the mailing list, you can go over to jubileelipsy.com/books to sign up. Those of you who are already a part of the mailing list should be getting instructions about preparing for the launch soon. But in the meantime, happy reading.